Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, this is David Grimes from Ciena here. I'm just going to talk for a little bit to make sure that your headphones or your speakers are working A-OK. So I'll kind of just fill some time here. It's about 11 past the hour I have on my computer screen, and we'll begin here at 3:15. We altered the date or the time a little bit just so we wouldn't start at the top of the hour like many other probably people and meetings getting started at the top of the hour. We thought this might help the cause a little bit starting at 3:15. So we got a couple minutes to start. Sit back and relax. You should be jumping into the webinar here. Hopefully you can see my screen. They're harder look at soft skills. You'll see a starting soon kind of overlay on top of my slide there. Just waiting for it to start up here at 3:15. We got a couple minutes left. I want to thank you for joining me today. I don't know where you're joining me at. I don't know if you're able to use the chat or not, but if you can, I'd love to know where you guys are coming from. I am broadcasting here out of my basement office in Northeast Ohio. I've been cooped up in my basement. It's sunny here at least, which is nice. It's been kind of rainy in my neck of the woods. I'm excited to not only talk to everyone today and hopefully discover some things about soft skills, but also a little bit afterwards catch some that nice that sunlight in the sun rays there before it sets tonight. So again, I want to welcome everybody to the webinar. I appreciate you making it out today. Hopefully you're setting up A-OK. You might not be at your usual spot. So I just want to, again, I'm just going to keep on talking for a little bit until we start here about 3:15. It will be recorded, so just give everybody a heads up if you happen to need to jump off the webinar here, or something happens tech-wise, or an emergency comes up, or you have to go get the something at the door, or help a family member out. That's a-okay. We are going to record this, and Chris Lambert is really good at grabbing the recordings and posting these on the accsc.org website. And what we try to do is work together and not only supply the recording, but I like to share my slide deck or my presentation. I use Keynote. I'm a Mac person, and I like to share my Keynote as a PDF file. That way, it doesn't matter if you're on a Mac or PC, you can download my slide deck and view this whenever you want to. And so just know that if something happens and you can't hear the sound, or you get knocked off, or something happens on your end that you have to jump off, don't fret. This will be recorded. So I just wanted to put you at ease. Again, I know a lot of people are probably streaming here, not at their usual locations. I don't know if you usually go in your classroom. I know some individuals like to do this in a big classroom, put it up on the overhead, and that's awesome. And I don't know if some of you are able to do that today. I am in Ohio here, so I'm kind of quarantined to my house and only leaving for emergency situations. But I think it's going to be real good. I have a 5-year-old running around upstairs, and I got 3 dogs out and about where I think my wife is trying to keep them entertained and happy. So you shouldn't hear them, but I do apologize in advance if you do hear a dog barking somewhere in the random background. But they're actually really good. They don't bother too much. I'm lucky I have some good dogs here. Anyway, it's about 14 after. We're going to start here at 3:15, so I'm going to just buy some more time, make sure everybody can hear me okay. So I just want to keep going here and making sure that you can hear the audio sounds on your end, whether you have to plug in headphones into the headphone jack on your laptop, or your iPhone, or your desktop computer, or maybe you have it up on your speakers, and that's great too. And again, just know that this will be recorded and saved for you on accsc.org. A lot of great information up on accsc.org. And with that said, I see a couple more people popping in. I'm going to just wait 1 minute. I'll give the 1 minute warning here and let you know we'll start here soon. Again, feel free to sit back and relax. You are more than welcome to take notes, but again, all this stuff will be saved for you. I'm going to save the slide deck as a PDF file for you that you can grab on the website. Give us a day or so. I know Chris Lambert's running around being real busy and stuff, so he's just really good at getting it up in the next day or two. I don't want to put him on the spot and say it'll be available in 24 hours, but keep checking back if you do miss out, or if you want to grab the slide deck. In addition to, we try to supply some handouts, and some of it's going to be materials that are related to the overall webinar. So you'll see a certificate of attendance that you can grab as a document file. That way you can edit that document, put your name in there, and get credit for being here. There is a sign-in sheet if you are a academic leader at your institution. Grab that sign-in sheet and you can try to corral people and get their names on the sign-in sheet if you need it. And then also for my presentation, there'll be some things that might not make sense at the moment, but I did want to share them with you. These are things that I'll talk about. You'll see a Cyena PDF called Action Verbs, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. There's also something called Cyena Model Links. There's some models that I talk about, and I just wanted to give you the links to it so you can visit it on your own time and maybe check those out in a little more detail. And the last thing is the rubric that I'll share. I've shared this before, so if you've been on to one of my webinars, I first welcome you coming back and joining me again. And second is if you have not seen that, it is a editable Word, or not a Word, but an Excel spreadsheet file that you can alter that rubric if you want to, depending on maybe things that you'll discover today in the webinar. You can get that Excel. So you got an Excel document, you got a Word document for me, and a PDF document. And then Chris Lambert gave everyone a certificate of attendance that you can edit in Microsoft Word. And there's also a sign-in sheet in case you need a sign-in sheet. Now, with that said, we're just past 3:15 here, so we'll begin and jump in and looking at the presentation. And again, if you need to jump off, everything will be recorded, so don't worry. I know it might be a stressful time, but I think it's an optimistic time where hopefully you can get some tips and tricks from the presentation today that maybe you can utilize sometime here in the immediate future, and that would be fantastic. Anyways, we'll jump into a harder look at soft skills. And just to begin, I just wanted to share a quick story with you. And I was thinking about my first job here about a day or so ago. I was driving past the strip mall area back in my hometown. I live about 35 minutes away from my hometown. I was on my way to pick up some things from my mom and dad and drop them off so they can stay at home. And I was with my wife, and I pointed out to my wife, and she'll say for like the 100th time, but I think maybe twice at best. And I go, that's where I got my first job. And so back in high school, way back in high school, I got my first job at the local Office Max, and that's the office supply chain store. If you have not heard of Office Max before. After school, you'd don my red apron. I used to wear a red apron that has the pocket in the front, and I'd help customers find carbon copy paper. I don't know if I have any of my Gen Xers out there and my baby boomers, but I had to use carbon copy paper, pen refill cartridges, and I'd even help some people in the electronics section grab the best parallel port cable for their new printer purchase. And then on payday, it was the best because I had some money to fill up the gas tank and go to the movies and buy random things a teenager thinks it's super important. Um, and I was thinking that story because today, hearing stories from friends and from family members, and even crews that have come and helped me out on home improvement projects in the past year or so, I started wondering. I was wondering, do kids nowadays, are they applying for jobs in high school or even maybe summer jobs in high school? Are they applying in similar fashion to maybe my experiences or my parents' experiences, becoming baggers at the grocery store, waiters or waitresses at the local eatery, or are they mowing lawns? Just things that I just loved doing because I was able to get a car, and I said I could fill up that gas tank and go to different things and buy different things and have the freedom. And I was wondering if that was happening because I was thinking about where my soft skill development started from, and I really think it was at this first job that I had at Office Max. I got these skills to work on a team. I got skills to work with customers who would come in of all different sorts of who all sorts of needs that they had, and working with superiors and so on, and being responsible and on time and making sure I did a great job. All those things I was thinking, that started maybe in school, but it really took off, I think, on my first job. And I was wondering what you thought. Maybe do you agree or do you think of something different? And I was also thinking about, why is there a lack of soft skills in some of our students today? Is it due to a sizable population preferring to live in the virtual world than the real world? Is it the smartphone or maybe technology in general? Is it the emphasis on standardized testing throughout K through 12 that we hear about that begins the downward trend of having these people skills or communication skills in our youth? Or am I think, I was thinking, has it always been this way? Is it always the older generation believing the younger generation lacks the people skills? And so those are some questions I was thinking. I have one more question for you. And I was thinking, have you ever come across these type of headlines when you are looking in the newspaper or you're browsing headlines online? And these headlines are like, graduates lacking soft skills necessary for workplace success. Or maybe a headline of, lack of soft skills problematic for job seekers in schools. Or, these are the biggest skills that new graduates lack. And I was thinking about that, and I come across that all the time. So, whatever the culprit or culprits may be, the truth is that employers are regularly stating our graduates are lacking these essential soft skills when they begin to apply and start at their jobs. And so I've seen it in the headlines. I've heard it personally by local employers here in Northeast Ohio, and maybe you've heard it in your location too. So over a year ago, many of us, I recognize a lot of familiar names in here, and I want to welcome everybody again who came with us about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, and we discussed soft skills and we discovered some strategies and talked about soft skills in general. Now, if you didn't catch me at the beginning, if you didn't have a chance to join us last spring and you have some time on your hands, definitely go to accsc.org, click on webinars, and the team there has been great about archiving all the webinars that we have given here. And you can get our slide deck, the recordings, get the certificate of completion. So if you really need to go back and do it, or if you're very interested in going back and look at some of those topics, go to accsc.org and check that out. But we began a year ago, and today, we thought we'd take a harder look at soft skills and focus on the people and communication skills that we can help develop with our students so they can be successful, in their academic and their post-academic careers. So the big question is always, I think, why? Why soft skills? Why communication? Why these people skills? And so when I think about the why, I think it's due to what we just mentioned here is this overwhelming point of view of employers and those that are hiring our graduates that they believe that soft skills are employability skills. So it's not just these hard skills that are going on, it's these soft skills that are going on as well. There was a very interesting article that I came across that I had to bookmark. I wanted to share this with you just to kind of kick things off here in this introductory part, is because of this discrepancy that had between graduates, like seniors graduating from college, and employers. And there was a survey, and it was titled "Are College Graduates Career Ready?" And it was by the National Association of Colleges, and it was about a year or two ago. And they looked at soft skills like professionalism and work ethic, oral and written communication, the two big ones we're looking at today, among several other soft skills. And there were two big disconnects. And I thought this was super interesting. While nearly 90% of students rated themselves as proficient in the area of professionalism, in work ethic, only 42% of employers considered them proficient. I thought that was so interesting. And then I looked, the next one. What was the next big discrepancy? And then I saw, some 79% of graduates rated themselves proficient when it came to oral and written communication, but only 42% of employers did. So not only, are employers thinking that students are lacking this, students think they're a-okay in this. And so we might run into this dilemma of students thinking like, oh, I'm proficient in this, but at the same time, employers are going, no, no, you're not. And so how can we encourage students to start thinking about this while we have them in our classroom? And again, yes, this is only one survey, and I understand that it's only one survey. It's from the National Association of Colleges, which is, to my extent and knowledge, and what I believe is a distinguished and reputable institution or place. But at the same time, it's only one. So I ask you, what do you think a similar survey would be in your community? Do you think it would be similar? Do you think employers in your local community would say, your students lack certain soft skills, maybe professionalism, maybe communication, while your students think, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And there might be a sway of opinion as you think about that question. And I know everybody's going to be different, but I just wanted to get that. And I wanted to share that just in a general survey that was shared, and relate that back to your own community, because that's going to be the most important, is your own community. Now, the U.S. Department of Labor, and more specifically the Employment and Training Administration, the ETA, what they do is they partner with industry companies and they develop these models that stress the need for what they call competencies that are necessary in industries like many of our students are striving to find a job and a career in upon graduation. In addition, the ETA, I like them because they also examined the Department of Education's employability skills framework. And then they looked at the National Network of Business and Industries Association's common employability skills. So they're taking their own model and it's based on these other established and distinguished models in different sectors. And they come up with this competency framework, this stepping stone type of pyramid. And I wanted to share this with you just to take a look at skills that are important for our students to have as they become employable in our types of sectors. So if you look at these building blocks, you'll find that our career college sector is really nailing this tier 4, tier 5, this industry sector and industry-wide technical competencies. And this is our bread and butter. These are the bread and butter of our programs that we have. It's the bread and butter of our courses, our lesson plans that we have, every day, and what our syllabi represent. But then I started thinking about, I was looking at like, oh, it's perfect, but like it's tier 4 and 5, right? We're kind of like, maybe in the middle or in the top, or what happened to 1, 2, and 3? So when you look at 1, 2, and 3, aha, that's where those soft skills are. And there's some soft skills and there's some academic competencies as well. And those kind of tie in, I think, to our industry. So the foundation of the building blocks of knowledge and skills needed by today's workforce based on this model that's based on other models, it's, it's these core skills, these professionalism, this communication, and all these other soft skills that you probably recognize on there. And when you look at communication, since we're going to take a harder look at that today, at tier 1, you have interpersonal skills, the skills that we use every day when we communicate and when we interact with each other. There's communication in tier 2, directly stated. And in tier 3, we have teamwork and customer focus that I believe also focuses on that communication aspect. When we take a harder look at professionalism, you see that shows up in tier 1. And again in tier 3, it's kind of sprinkled out, I think, with teamwork, customer focus, planning and organization, coordinating, checking. You could probably even make a case in some other ones as well. So when I look at the whole model, I'm thinking, wow, it's up to us, it's up to you to not only help students in tier 4 and 5, which we're fired on all cylinders there, but also fulfilling the competencies in the previous 3 tiers and helping them become more employable in their respective industry. Now, I know it's a tall task, and you're thinking, man, there's more stuff that, it all comes out on our shoulders to go tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically, and to get them a job. I know it's a tall task, but I know that, we and you as ACCSC members can accomplish this. I know there's a lot of great ideas out there. I've borrowed some ideas, I've implemented some ideas myself, so I wanted to share those with you today. And again, take a look at these employability skills. Remember, soft skills are employability skills. And I think that to me has a better ring to it because it really focuses me at least to say, you know what, these are important as these hard skills that our students are getting in our classrooms today. So, remember, soft skills are employability skills. So my question is, what can we do? What can we do to help these out? And here's some teaching strategies that I think can be very helpful for us to implement. And in order to build these soft skills, to grow and to improve our students' employability skills, we have to focus on relationships. Professionalism and communication is the core of relationships in the workplace. Good communication can help mitigate conflict. It could increase employee and team engagement and even create a more productive team in general if you have this great communication and professionalism on there. And when you think of professionalism just in itself, it's all about your graduates' behavior, their appearance, not just what they wear to work and what they wear to class perhaps, but what they wear on their face. What smiles, what expressions are they conveying, that nonverbal communication as well, especially with clients and patients and customers. And on top of that, when you're thinking of professionalism, it's going to be workplace ethics. And so that's kind of like the relationships that we can build and grow those soft skills, and how we develop those relationships with our students and students with other students in our classrooms. And relationships in our classrooms are really dependent on group work. So I'd like to take a look at some group work strategies that have been shared with me and stuff that we've seen here at myself working as an online and on-ground instructor in the past, and here working at SciENA, where I kind of borrow some ideas of individuals that we meet at different conferences and different schools we visit. So I'd like to share some of those with you. And I'd like to start off with the current state of what a lot of us are experiencing today. I'd like to start it off with online discussion. Now, I think with a little planning, um, online discussions can be this easy and effective way to offer engagement in the classroom. It can promote this communication soft skills, and it can really hone that written communication soft skill in particular. So whether you're needing to migrate online here quickly and you're scrambling to find some type of online solution maybe to offer some engagement, or you've already implemented discussions in the past, or maybe you have a hybrid approach, uh, you probably can see that these can be helpful course items. And if not, these are helpful course items to offer that engagement, especially if we're used to having this discussion on ground in person in our classrooms. How can we replicate that online? And when I think about it too, personally, I spent a lot of time writing emails. I spent a lot of time sending messages, whether by text message or on a chat platform. We use Slack, for example, is a chat platform that our business uses where I could communicate with my team in different states and whole group meetings and so on. And many of these communications are, like I mentioned, to fellow team members. They are to fellow uh, clients that maybe we have. It's to superiors above me that it's going to be super important that I communicate effectively. And so this is going to be a very important skill to develop when you think of communication, when you think of written communication, especially. And I think about too, again, I like to reflect back to your own students and think about if on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10, how would you rate in general, just off the top of your head, what's that written communication level of your student body? 1 through 5, are they a 4? Are they a 3? Is it a 1? Where are they at in that written communication? And then think about how important written communication is in your sector or your program, or maybe even for you on the job. And start thinking about why this can be so important, and then we'll figure out how we can implement this. So I have a couple tips again I just want to share with you that promote a good discussion, which is going to be very important, but it also promotes those soft skills and that soft skill growth in that relationship building, in that soft skill building. So first, we'll start from the very foundational, just because this might be the first time we use online discussions, and I just want to start with the pedagogical goal. Again, to form good soft skills, we have to form a good discussion first. So let's start with the pedagogical goal. So if the goal is to check to see if students say read chapter 8, and then offer a reflection question versus a discussion. Don't prove that the student read chapter 8 by offering a discussion question. Just offer a prompt or something that they can answer. But if the pedagogical goal is to enable interaction, if that's the goal, then discussions are perfect. The discussion can help put a student's written communication to the test. Each time they have to make a post to the question, and also puts their written communication skills to the test when they have to reply to fellow students as well. So they get these different interactions, replying to the post, replying to each other as students, and maybe even replying to you as the instructor. Next is promote action with action verbs. And what I mean by this is who are, I say show of hands, but I can't see it, but show of hands of, who are my academic nerds in here who love writing objectives? I love writing objectives. I like just finding that core thing that goes, aha, and that kind of connects everything in the course or everything in this unit. And so what I did was I shared our SciENA action verb cheat sheet that I have, and it's in the handout section in your GoToWebinar control panel. and it's a PDF. It's called Cyena Action Verb List, and it says copy because I just made a copy of it. Now, I use it to create objectives primarily, but I also use it to create discussions because, again, I want to use action verbs to promote action in my discussions. And what I mean by this is, being specific can really help bring better responses and better written communication so you can kind of get them off on the right foot when you use these action verbs. And so when you use like compare, or you use interpret or justify, that's so much better than a generic, tell me about so and so, or what do you think about so and so. And so again, use those action verbs to get something. So when I use compare, I'm telling them exactly what they need to do, not just what do you think about. I can use interpret. That's interpret this thing. So you have to analyze it, interpret it, or justify, prove something. And so again, those are better words to use in discussions instead of just being like, tell me about what you think about, chapter 8. Terrible discussion prompt. You want to use something that's a little bit more action oriented. And again, you don't want to just go through and say, what, I just want to prove that students read this chapter, or they read this passage, or they read this website. And finally, I like to say, think about the best way to implement the discussion assignment to bring about the best interactions. Again, we're talking about relationships and about interactions when we're talking about this communication soft skills. So a great method that I see commonly placed in different types of institutions who are online or hybrid is the two deadline approach, where the initial post due date is set prior to the due date of the entire assignment. For example, and this is a common one I see, is that you can set the deadline for Wednesday for the initial discussion response. So as a student, I log into my online discussion board and I have to do the prompt by Wednesday. So that's that initial reply that I do. And then the second requirement that is due is writing a response to a student, or writing 2 or 3 or 4 responses to different students. And that is due on, say, Friday. Or remember, we can have it due on Sunday because we're online. We can take advantage of the weekend now. And so you have that first date on Wednesday, that initial discussion due date, and then you go down a couple days and you can have that follow-up second due date where they can interact with students. And when you look at this, it's a really good approach because it kind of organizes that discussion board a little bit better. At the same time, this increases the dependability and the reliability on others to make that initial post so students can build off of that initial post and respond. If you think about it, if no one's making that initial post to Sunday night, everybody's going to be hurting because not everybody has Sunday night to be open. So the dependability and the reliability of individuals is say, you know what, a good thing to do to not just think about yourself, because yeah, you may be busy Monday through Wednesday, but the right thing to do for the entire team is to get that post in as early as possible. And so that's a good way to, again, develop that soft skills and get that in there. Now, a really good way is, you can, really go in and focus on this dependability and reliability, if you use a rubric, for example, in the discussion, and you can have a rubric category that says certain items like dependability or reliability and invite them to, make those posts. I've also seen schools, which this is great, is that they have the Wednesday and say Sunday 1-2 deadline approach. And then about halfway through the class, they stop doing the Wednesday requirement and they see what happens. Do students keep doing it and post early, or do some students wait to the very last second, to the very last minute to make all 3 posts, for example? Well, if they do that, they don't get that dependability or that reliability check mark on the rubric, and so they lose a couple points. And so it's not just, you have to do it by Wednesday because the directions say so. You do it because you're trying to build that internal dependability, that internal reliability that you need because other people rely upon you. So I thought that was a great idea, is this, maybe making this 2 deadline approach at first and then kind of making it go away and see what happens and see if students still post Monday through Wednesday, for example, or do they do a majority of them wait, or do a lot of them see the value in going and posting early because they realize and they know they're helping others out. That's a soft skill that you're developing online in an online discussion. Just to continue for a couple more, because these are really nice too. is that you can increase the dependability and reliability by using smaller discussion groups or group discussions. If you think about it, if one or two people skip the assignment or post super late in the week, and you have a class of 25, no big deal, right? You have 25 students, two, three, four don't post by Wednesday, for example. There's still enough people who are going to make this discussion assignment still go through. But if your discussion group only has 5, 6, 7, 10 students who have to respond, a couple missing students really hampers the effectiveness and reliability and dependability, or the lack thereof, I guess, of that discussion. And so students are really going to feel that effect when 3 out of the 7 people don't respond by Wednesday, and it's very noticeable. And then what individuals have done and teachers have done is, offer some type of reflection to say, was this week's discussion easy? Or, they post that directly to the instructor and, what would you change differently? What hurdles you run into? And that gets shared in general, possibly the next week. And we see if students, who maybe didn't reply that first time, are they replying for the second week or the third week? Are they doing better? Are they seeing that growth or not? Or is the student always waiting for the last second? And then you can assess that soft skill. Are they growing that soft skill? Or maybe they're not growing that dependability or that reliability or that communication type of framework in the discussion board. Now you can divide up students into different discussions with the same prompts. I know some individuals, they use the same prompt in different, maybe 3 discussions boards or 4 discussion boards. They say, students that end, last names end with A through H, post in discussion board, 1, I through P, and discussion board 2, and Q through Z in the third discussion group. And so then you chunk down your class of, say, 25 into smaller groups. Perhaps if you use an LMS, a learning management system online, or you have some discussion board application or software, you can offer sections where you can set up groups beforehand. So I can put students into groups as I put my rosters in my course and say, these students are in group 1, these ones in group 2, and they have their own personal discussion boards to post into automatically. So it just really depends on the technology that's available or that you are using for discussion boards that you can divide up the students. But at the very least, you can create a couple discussion boards and divide them up by last name if you want to. Now, if you have a larger group and you don't want to, or you cannot break them into smaller groups, you can offer choice in a response. And I thought this was a great idea. We have teachers that always offer a choice, or as often as they can offer choice in the discussion. So when they give a prompt at the very beginning, there's prompt A, prompt B, and prompt C, and the students have an option to pick which one they want. And the nice thing about this is that students can choose one of the 3 questions posed, and this gives some variety in the discussion posts, and it helps curb that same response being echoed and echoed over and over and over again. So I thought that was going to be a really nice way to, if you didn't want to divide them up or you can't divide them up, offer a couple different responses that students can choose from. And then that would be able to kind of, give different types of responses, and you're not going to have the same type of response over and over again. And I thought that was a great idea to do it. Now, a moment ago, I mentioned rubrics, and I want to come back to rubrics again, is that, when you're looking at rubrics, definitely, think about the soft skill portion of the assignment. Definitely, they have to get the content correct. But at the same time, we were talking about being dependable, reliable, because see if they post Monday through Wednesday. Definitely include spelling and grammar. There is a place for professionalism in writing, and there's a place when you can use shorthand and emojis. There needs to be a distinguished difference in between the two at a lot of places where you can use your phone, or you do communicate with your phone with different team members, or even with your superiors. Maybe it's okay in your place to send emojis to the boss, but a good practice would be to use professional written communication in all things that are on the job. And so again, just start thinking about that rubric as you go through and start planning out your discussions. The last 2 things I want to mention here as an encore for tips is to stress that professionalism skill even more. You can offer debate, especially on hot topics related to the field of study. And so a nice way to start off here is I liked going to, it's called procon.org. I don't know if you've already know about procon.org. That's procon.org. What I like about procon.org is that they have these topic issues already listed and separated out. So they have like health and medicine as one category, science and tech as another. And then they have, all types of things from sports to politics and everything in between, where not only do they give a nice question that could help you sculpt that prompt that you might want to create in discussion board, but they also at least give you some resources that say, it's a yes or a no, or it's pro or con, or it's this side or that side. And that's a nice like jumping point off for the students. So that's procon.org. So if you are thinking about some type of debate and you're like, I just don't know, or I'm having trouble, or I just need some inspiration, try going to procon.org. It's just one of the several websites that are, I think, very helpful when you're kind of having that mental block on what to develop. So procon.org, health and medicine, science and tech, and everything in between. A lot of great topics on there that you can help you create these debates online. And again, these debates really offer and stress that professionalism skill. And with this emphasis on professionalism, I do want to make a note, and this has been great in courses that I have taught online, is emphasizing netiquette. Netiquette, if you've never heard of it, is net etiquette or online etiquette, and it's just saying, basically, don't be a goofball in the discussion board. And you can put your own rules, or again, just Google netiquette, and you'll get a lot of great bullet points that you can include into your kind of description or disclaimer. And this is all about professionalism. You might not agree with somebody, but there's no reason to go into name calling or to be very negative about it. You can agree to disagree, and there's ways to approach that. And that's super important because sometimes in students, and you might have one or two in your classes or have experienced one or two in your classrooms, if there's a difference of opinions, it doesn't really lead to great discussions, and it leads to some negative behavior that we don't want to carry on as they get into the workforce. So again, just use debates as a way to really stress that professionalism. I know it can be scary in there because you're like, I don't know what my students will post, but they might surprise you as well, especially when you give that netiquette and you provide the rubric. At least there's no excuse for why they should act a certain negative way on the discussion board if that's provided. Now, up on the screen there, it says use debates or case studies versus standard prompts. So for case studies, I like case studies because one, it promotes analysis, this critical thinking about it, and two, it brings in real world experiences, which all of us are practitioners, and we can bring in some real world experiences that we personally experienced or ones that we know about. And so the cool thing is that we can share an experience or a scenario that have multiple options or multiple avenues that students can choose. And perhaps in the discussion, you as the teacher can share your own response to that case study that's maybe based on your real life experience. This is what happened when the patient did this, or the patient's family did this, or when the customer experienced this. Maybe that was the way that you handled it, and maybe it went great, or maybe it didn't go so great. But these type of case studies, could have several different quote unquote right answers. And that's a good way to promote that critical thinking soft skills, as well as trying to communicate that out on written communication. So I really like that one as well. And the last one, it says package with recorded lectures or discussions. And what I mean by that, and this is great. This is my gold star one that I thought was really nice, and I really want to do this in one of my classes. Is kind of package online discussion boards with live or recorded lectures. And this is a great way to highlight both, I think, in-person and online soft skills regarding communications. And in this method, what you can do is you can record a small group discussion with a select group of students. And it can be a video conference, for example. Maybe we can only do a video conference right now in this day and age. Or maybe it's an in-person discussion that's recorded on video. For example, it's me and three other of my students doing a GoToMeeting or a Zoom meeting, or if you're on an LMS, maybe there's a conferences section in your LMS. We record that. It's only me and three students, and we discuss this week's topic. and we go back and forth, and they have to be prepared, and we're audioly doing it, so you can record it just by audio, or maybe we have our webcams open and we can do it visually and with audio, and that gets recorded and put into discussion, so the larger group gets to respond, and they can reflect on our points of views that were brought up and whether they agree with David or they don't agree with David, and so on. And so it's a package deal of mixing in, real world visual communication and in-person communication for the most part versus written communication. So that was really nice. And then next week, I, as a teacher, pick 3 other students, and we have our small little discussion on Monday. And then I post that up on for everybody to view in a video or in an audio clip, and then they respond to our discussion. And that was a really neat way. So package with recorded lectures or discussions is a nice way to mix this in-person oral type of communication and this written communication to form this really good communication package that we can really develop the soft skills on. Because then you're trying to listen to everybody and respond by listening, in addition to responding by the typed word, which I thought was awesome. All right, so that's the online portion of it. So I apologize for going a little bit deep on it, but I wanted to share a bunch of different things just because, again, some of us might be jumping on the online bandwagon, whether we were ready to or not. But again, it's an easy way to do it, and I'm using easy in quotes, but it's an easier way than a lot of other things to offer online engagement. And it really hits home on those soft skills, especially with communication. And if you do debates, then it really hones in on like professionalism, but professionalism in general too. It's that net etiquette that we're trying to stress online, not only with online communication, but that will translate well to emails that they're going to send on the job, to text messages that they might send on the job as well. And they can really hone that skill in. And again, it just requires a little bit of planning, a little bit of legwork, and we can really set that up to, have students, have that communication soft skill down. But again, they're going to read directions carefully. They have to follow multiple deadlines. They can think critically. So there's some other kind of sprinkled in soft skills that students can really take advantage of on with online discussions. With that said, let's move offline and look at groups, maybe in our labs or maybe groups in our classrooms, or both, of course. And so let's take a look at group work, in-person group work. So I don't know if you could still do in-group person work where you're at the moment, but if not, maybe this is something we can think about down, hopefully in the near future, where we can get back together and offer some group work when we're working together. Now, group work, I think, is all about the setup and the planning for group work, just like your discussions. It's not just, all right, bang, 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 here's some groups, here are some worksheets, go at it. It takes a little bit of I think, prep time to develop. And one thing, even before the group is announced, even before you're ready to start the project, you can initiate this pre-group activity. And this pre-group activity is there to help discover students, I call it diversity, relating to their soft skills. How are our students the same and different when it relates to communication skills, with working in team skills, and so on? And what you can do is you can create groups based on these criteria. And so questions I like to pose before the groups are formed, and this might be in one of those, first day icebreaker scenarios, or maybe it's one of those things at the beginning of class one day for 5 minutes. You can ask questions like, I would describe my personality as this, or I would describe, my perfect team as this. I would appreciate my team members doing this or not doing this. Or you ask the student, answer the following question. I would prefer to deal with conflict by so-and-so. And what you're going to get is you're going to get these diverse answers from students who would solve a conflict by, they wouldn't speak up, or they would speak up, or they would get everybody's input and make a decision. Or someone would say, I would just make a decision. You're going to get people who appreciate team members doing this and not doing this. And then you can put them in teams. And so what you can really do is kind of start off with maybe easy teams where the people are going to get along to the start of the year. You're trying to build and grow that teamwork, that personality, that communication soft skill up. And so maybe you start them off with easy. If you know how people may work together, your students may work together, you can see these type of questionnaires and get their personality, their soft skill personality down a little bit, and group them together and they can maybe have a pretty good group. But then you start putting in groups where they kind of, just happen to maybe not get along in some way, not because they don't like each other, but because their personalities clash in a soft skills type of way. You have one person who's quiet, one who's outspoken. You have an introvert or extrovert, just different types of people that you can put in there. And you can really form those groups and see the group dynamics and see if they can overcome obstacles, overcome conflict, which is another type of soft skill. How can they work through stress? Another type of soft skill. So all these kind of, and being professional about it on top of it. So these are all types of soft skills that can come out of group work, where again, a little bit more extra planning and setup at the very beginning can help the cause along the way, which I think is going to be very, very helpful as you start to, form these groups and really take a step back and think about how can we, hit those tier one, twos, and threes when it comes to developing relationships with people. Because if our students are never working in groups and they're always working by themselves, and they kind of work together sometimes and not really, then once they get out in the workforce, I think that's where the sudden jarring effect happens, where they're not used to it, or the employers are saying these people are not proficient in the job, especially as a new hire. So again, trying to use this setup to develop this group work can be very, very important. Now, in addition to having this set up and thinking about like how can I methodically arrange my students in groups, because I want to kind of form maybe easy groups or maybe more difficult groups, or I want to shuffle them around and see what the dynamics are going to be like, and assess it and get some reflections on the group, which is going to be very important, so they recognize that these are skills that they have to overcome. Not all teams are going to be perfect. I'm sure you have worked in teams where there's been a difficult person to work with. There's been teams where someone is a really extrovert type of person or introvert type of person. You might have other types of team members, and we all experience this. So we should really open that door up a little bit more if we can, whether it's online or in person, to really give this experience to our students who might not get that experience before your class or before they enter into your college. A second type of setup I really like is, and that was shared with me, and I actually use this in my own group work, is assigning a group leader. Now, this one was really nice because back, and I'll go way back to my high school days again to loop back to the beginning, is that when I was it was an English comp type of class, and the teacher arranged desks in like squares or rectangles where we were all kind of facing each other, and we used to work in teams. And every week, he would put somebody as a new group member. Now, in high school, I was the quiet kid, didn't really talk too often, and so it was a big thing to become group leader, and it was kind of scary, but I did it, and it went well, which was nice. And of course, it wasn't perfect, but at the same time, it gave me the confidence to know that I could be in that situation, and it just it opened that door. And maybe to others it didn't make a big deal, but maybe like me and some others in your classroom, that can be a very nice way to start building that soft skill, that leadership, professionalism, that teamwork, that communication soft skill up, and you put them in a group, but also assign a group leader, because the dynamics change a little bit. There's going to be this extra responsibility on that group leader, who has to, get that group finished and kind of work his or her way into the group, and making sure that person's respected, and you're not maybe being too bossy, but you're not being too laid back. And so it's a nice, quote unquote, on the job experience if you can put a group leader in charge of a certain group, and they can really learn a good amount in group dynamics. And when they write that reflection afterwards, or they kind of analyze how that group went, they'll recognize the good and the bad, and why one might work and one way might not work, or how difficult one personality can be versus another, and how to overcome that. That can all be taught and learned in our group settings in our classroom, which I think is great. So group leaders, very, very nice way to do it. Another way to do it, and this is in a versus like just saying, here's the worksheet. I'm giving a terrible example that I know none of you do, but like here's a worksheet, form groups of 4, and I'll see you here in about 1 hour. That's not going to be a great way to do it. In addition to doing group leaders, you can do group roles. And so group roles that I see most familiar with in groups is the group facilitator, the group, they call it the prober, or the person who asks questions, the group recorder, and the group reporter. And those are the most common ones. So facilitator, as the name implies, it's the person who kind of keeps the group on task, and they verify everybody's doing their job. They're like the grease that keeps everything going. The prober asks questions, which is always helpful. They're the person that they shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, maybe offer alternative viewpoints, and play devil's advocate. So I think that prober can be that person that really gets that group, having that critical thinking and being like, well, what if this, or what if that, and really again plays devil's advocate. Recorder is great because that person can take notes on important topics. So that recorder is in a group work and getting down all the notes and stuff. A lot of people are going to rely on this recorder to get and jot down all the notes and maybe put together in a nice summary piece, and making sure that's shared with everybody. So you have this recorder who is like kind of like the note taker of the group and maybe provides that final summary. Then you have the reporter. This is the person that has to have that soft skill of communication, especially to go up and do public speaking. This is like if we did a group assignment, this person would speak to the class on what the group found out. So that reporter person not only has to have the public speaking confidence and soft skill to be effective at talking to a large group, but that reporter is also reliant on all the other group members to make sure they're doing their part, so that person can feel even more confident. And hopefully the other group members can realize that in the process. Some other roles that have come across are fact checkers, which I thought was real interesting. That's the person who goes out and checks for accuracy, maybe asks for clarity on topics discussed, and then they also check that written work of the recorder and making sure that is accurate and recorded nicely, and looks for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. So I thought that fact checker was really nice. If you think of a fact checker kind of like on the old newspapers, who go through, and it's like the editor, and they go through and making sure everything is, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and so on. I thought a nice one for the, especially in labs, is the materials manager. That was another extra one that I wanted to mention. This person is responsible for gathering materials, and they're also responsible for maybe laying out materials or setting it up in a certain way, but they're also responsible for putting the materials back and cleaning. And I know some of our shops and some of our labs and stuff, cleaning is not the most fun thing to do, but it's super important. And so it's just that person, now there's one person in that group is responsible for it. Whether that person does it all by themselves, or there's tasks that are assigned, that's up to you as the instructor, or that is the group. If they decide to do it that way, they can do it that way. Surprisingly, we've seen groups where if they can form their own rules, sometimes they make that one person do everything. And sometimes you see groups that actually pitch in, and that person is in charge of it, yes, but everybody does their part in cleaning and picking things up and grabbing things and so on. It's just that person's kind of like the manager of it, which I thought was very interesting. The last type of group role that's not on the screen, but I do want to mention, is something called the timekeeper. And I only mention it because this one was brought up because it's a good, easy role to do. Timekeeper is what the name implies. It's a person who just makes sure students are on task and they're kind of keeping times. Okay, there's 45 minutes till we have to present. There's 20 minutes we have to present. 5-minute warning and so on. And again, I like this one because it's used for individuals who are really struggling with teamwork, or someone who's just very shy. And this enables that student to take on a role, gain confidence, and it's relatively easy, but they become part of the team. They let the team know that time's coming up, it's almost time, okay, time is up. And so they do have a participatory role in this, which is going to be key. And maybe that's the catalyst to get them to be the recorder, or the catalyst that gets them to be a prober, or maybe even a reporter or facilitator and so on. So I like timekeeper because it's the one that I can put in my back pocket to assign to somebody, or can just throw it out there where I can make sure if I have anybody who's really struggling with becoming part of the group for whatever reason, they can be the timekeeper at first. And that kind of gets them used to it, builds that confidence, so they can be a better part of that group, hopefully, as they grow throughout your class. And now, in week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or whatever, maybe you'll see them being the recorder one day, or the reporter one day even, or maybe talking publicly in the class, and being that person that could speak to the entire group. You never know, but that kind of catalyst could be that timekeeper. So again, some extra ones that weren't on there is fact checker, materials manager, and timekeeper, which I thought were really important. So as we conclude group work, I just want to remember to, offer and assess soft skills development. You do want to put some planning into it, just like you would with your online discussions, and maybe assigning groups, assigning leaders in groups, or assigning group roles. And pairing up students by personality, by skill set, by some role can really show the group dynamics and the soft skills to successfully navigate it, and maybe opens that up so you can teach it and students can learn from it and really see that soft skills play an important part in that teamwork, and their professionalism and their communication is going to dictate how well those individuals are going to be. Now, I do have a question that was brought up earlier when I was mentioning this, was that what do I do for students who are apprehensive about getting a group grade? I know there are instructors who like to kind of offer both, and you can weight them differently. The individual grade, if again, especially if you assign roles, everyone has something to do, so you can grade them on that individual role. So that's another positive for assigning individual roles, is that there's something at least tangible that you can grade them upon. But then some part of their overall grade is that group grade. Now, whether it's 25%, 50%, 90%, whatever you think it might be, that's up to you to dictate. Maybe that overall grade is based on partial individual grade and partial group grade. And again, if someone is worried about, like, I just can't rely on everybody else to get a grade, well, guess what? That's the real world. You have to rely on people. And so this group grade is going to be an important thing. And so, you can't always go through your work life working all by yourself. There are people you have to rely on. There's people that rely on you, and there's this group dynamic that you have to have and be successful at, to really be successful as a whole group or be successful as the company. So these are important types, again, of relationships, of interactions and engagement with people, to build that professionalism, to build that communication in group work. Now, the last item I want to cover today is professionalism, and just we've been touching upon it all throughout because I think it lends its hand in being being cool online and not being a goofball, like I said earlier. But it lends to being a professional, whether you're being recorded or you're having this in group type of work. Because again, you don't want to raise your voice and yell at people. You don't want to call people names. You don't want to put people down and so on. That's all part communication, but it's also part of this professionalism that we have. But I did want to mention this last item, kind of brought out of that communication spectrum, because this can be stressed and assessed every single day in the classroom, every single day in a lab environment, which I think is going to be very important, especially as this one had the biggest disconnect between in that survey. And this one really, I think, brings home and is the kind of core that a lot of other soft skills dangle off from. Because if you're professional, usually you can be organized. Usually you have this good communication skill. Usually there's these other items that build from this professional foundation. So I thought it was important to bring this out. And I have this document, and it was shared last year as well, but I'm bringing it back. It's just a template, so I just put in stuff into the different columns and rows in the cells in here. But this is a generic type of professionalism rubric. Now, the professionalism rubric, if you haven't mentioned it, or if you haven't heard me mention this before, is a great alternative to the participation type of rubric, where it's like, did David show up? Yep, check. Like, that's not a great way to earn points, in my opinion, at least. And it might not, depending on how rigorous the academic assessment is of your program or your course or whatever, even a participation type grade might not cut it. So this is a nice way to do it. If you look on the screen, you'll see the categories that I have, and these are the ones that I believe are important in this hypothetical situation of being punctual, doing active listening, having demeanor, having perseverance, and presence, like always, showing up and being present, and not like just being blending into the background for the most part. And if you look at the top, you'll see one, two kind of blank ones, and a zero. So for me, this rubric, looks complicated, but in general, it's pretty easy because it's almost like I can do this in my head. I know when someone's late, so I know they weren't punctual. And if they were really late, they get a zero. If they were a minute late, maybe I give them a half a point or something. I could do that in my head, and I could remember that to the very end of class, or I can jot that down on a post-it note or something. And then by the end of it, I can really go down my list of students and go, okay, I remember this student really mouthing off or being mouthy or saying something totally inappropriate, so they get 0 points here. And most of the time, hopefully, students are getting 1 point. So for me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories that they can choose from. So every day they earn 5 points in my hypothetical class for a grade. And this is a rubric. It's thoroughly assessed. It's related to soft skills that are important that I believe in my class, but maybe it's important for the whole school. Maybe there's a school-wide professionalism rubric. Maybe there is a meeting that you have. You're once a year. Maybe you go and you have community members come in, or you have businesses that come in, the business leaders, and you talk about things that they're looking for, or things that they think are lacking in students regarding the soft skills, and you put that in the rubric. And now you have something that is totally based on direct feedback from employers in your area, in your community, that say these are the top 5, top 3, or whatever it might be, soft skills that your students are lacking. And so your rubric right here, you can edit and make it exactly how you want it. Now, again, this is in the professionalism rubric template. It's the XLSX, so it's a Microsoft Excel template. But if you have like Google Sheets or something, you should be able to open it up. And if you have any trouble, definitely give me a holler. I'd be more than happy to try to find a format that you can grab it in. So again, something I'd like to share with everybody. You might have grabbed it last year, and if you didn't, it's in the GoToWebinar control panel. It's only going to be available in the control panel, so make sure you grab it before you jump out of here. Or if you're in a group, make sure that person who logged in grabs that professionalism rubric and grabs that template. And again, you should be able to edit everything. And again, if you want to do 0 and 1, you only want to have 2 columns, have 2 columns. Again, I just try to make it a little robust, but not too complicated. And the goal is to have something that's very well academically set up so you can assess it well, but also something that's tied to soft skills and ones that are going to be important in your building and your community and so on. So what I really want to do is say, what does professionalism mean to you? And what does it mean to your industry? Take what that means to you as the instructor, or you as the program director, or you as the entire school, and maybe think of ways that you can improve those core professionalism types of soft skills. And what does it mean to your industry? Take a look at those meetings that you have with the employers in your area, or the individuals that go out and visit your students on externships, for example. Just ask them, what do you see? Maybe with our students, but in maybe other people that they have externships with. What do you see as a lack? And really get that core data that's going to be to your community. And again, just funnel that back into the classroom. You could funnel that back into a professionalism rubric or a soft skills rubric. You can put it back into online discussions if it fits, or you can put it back into group work discussions. Again, this is all about relationships when we think about what can we do to help promote and close that gap. It's not just maybe having a lecture about the importance of professionalism. It's about them displaying it and having the opportunity to grow it in your class by working together. So the core of this is about working together, online, offline, or hybrid. Try to find ways where your students can work together, and you should be able to close that gap a little bit more with just a little extra planning, and maybe some tips and tricks of how to make that discussion a little bit better, how to make those groups form a little bit better, how to make every day, just like the workplace, where they have to behave in a professional way in general, basically, because it's in the rubric. The rubric is part of the syllabi, it's part of the class. And so every day they should leave, their personal selves at the door, and as they walk through your classroom, a professional self should be able to come in so they get used to it. What you want to do is develop a habit. So if they get in the habit of being a professional student, when they go out in the workforce, they're going to be a professional employee. And so that's going to be the key for all of this. And with that said, I do want to thank you for joining me today. Again, just a note, if you came in late, all this information will be saved. I know Chris Lambert and the ACCSC crew will save this recording for everyone. It will be offered up on the website, accsc.org. If you click on webinars, you can actually go to that website and download this in the near future. Again, I don't want to put Chris on the spot. I don't want to get yelled at by Chris, but it will be up soon, I would say. And it's really dependent of me too, because I have to save my presentation. I like to export it as a PDF. I said I'm a Mac person, but I know not everybody will have Keynote, so I'm going to save it as a PDF, and you can have my slides. And so you should have my slides. You should be able to watch the recording at a later date if you need to. And then you can also download the certificate of attendance. It's in your handout section right now. So if you haven't grabbed it yet, check out that handout section in your control panel. And there's the files that Chris shared with the certificate of attendance and the webinar sign-in sheet. If you need a sign-in sheet, for example, I don't need a sign-in sheet. You don't need to sign anything for me. This is for your own personal use if you need it. And I don't think most people will need it, but if you need it today, definitely download those files. But also the professionalism rubric we just mentioned, it should be in that handout section. There's the model links. I mentioned a couple models from like the U.S. Department of Education, the building blocks model that I showed on screen. All those are in that models links. I just created a Word document that had the links there, so you can visit that, print off, save those images to yourself if you want to look at them and see them a little bit up close and personal. And then the last document I have is the SIANA action verbs. And again, I use that, and you can more than welcome to use this for your objectives, but you can also use that to find good action verbs to put into your discussions. And hopefully that will promote a really good communication and specific communication between students. And that was back to saying, justify or compare versus just tell me about. So all that's going to be in the handout section. Other than that, I just want to say if you need anything, if you have any questions later on, all my information is up on SIANA.com. So my email, my LinkedIn, and they have all that stuff listed on SIANA. You probably could click on it on About, top right of the page. All that information, if you need to contact me, or if you couldn't get that file for some reason and it wouldn't download, just let me know. I will be more than happy to grab it, send it to you. But again, if you attended the live webinar, you can get these files, no problem. Just tell me you attended the webinar and I'll make sure you get it. Or if you have a coworker who didn't attend, just tell them that, hey, just when you email David, tell him that you attended and he'll send it to you. I'll send it to you nonetheless. I'm not going to fact check to you to see if you attend the webinar or not. But if you ask, I'll definitely share anything that I can help you on that help me out as an instructor online and on ground. Because I think if long as we have these to our disposal, maybe one day it can work, whether it's going to be tomorrow or next year or next semester. Hopefully you can pick up one thing that you can use and we'll see the results on that. Otherwise, I know there's going to be a webinar tomorrow that is the COVID-19 best practices. I think it's mostly gauged for administrators and program directors and staff. But I know if you go to the accsc.org website, they do have a COVID-19 link right on the main page that has some great information, not only on the website, but also some documents and stuff that you can download that kind of helps provide some guidance in this interesting time. But I know that webinar is going to be on tomorrow, Friday, March 27th. It's at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and it should run to about 1 p.m. is what it's set to. And I know there's going to be certain topics discussed and some best practices as well. So hopefully between today and tomorrow, you might hopefully get some really neat online ideas on how to still offer training, still offer learning in the online environment. And of course, we have more webinars coming up. Again, those all on the accsc.org website. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach me at siana.com. With that, we have about 10 minutes left. I don't think the chat is operational, but if you do have a question, I'll leave this up here just for a little bit longer as you could sign off. You're more than welcome to sign off. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But if you want to stay on a little bit and just make sure you go to siana.com and you can see my information. Basically, my email is david.grimes@siana.com, CYANNA.com. email me anytime. I'll be more than happy to give it to you. And I'll leave this up just a little bit longer because I want to make sure you're able to grab those handouts. Again, you have the certificate of attendance, you have the action verb copy, the model links, the rubric, and the sign-in sheet if you need to. And I don't want anybody to be like, I'm downloading it right now, and I give everybody the boot by closing out the webinar. So let me leave it open for a couple more minutes, and definitely go on and grab that. And again, I truly appreciate you signing on today. I know you're probably extra busy and figuring things out, and hopefully I see a lot of you next week as well. We have a couple more coming up, and should be some interesting ones that build off on some of the topics we discussed today and some that are brand new. So with that, thank you so much, and I will see you next week. All right, got a couple more minutes. I'll stick around here. I wanted to just thank everybody who said hello and everything was going okay. I was just wanted to thank everybody who asked a question. I'm trying to go through. I was answering a bunch of questions, and I was trying to go through as I went through. Some ones that are coming up a couple more times is just will be attached to be available after the webinar. I can't guarantee all of them will. I know the certificate of attendance will be available, as well as the sign-in sheet. That's like a standard. If you go on to accsc.org, those are always listed on there. If mine are not posted, I'll share it. But if they're not shared on the accsc.org website, definitely send me an email. I'll make sure you get those templates if you cannot download those. So that's a good question. So I won't say yes, they'll be up on that website because I think there's a template or format they have. Could they put more on? I don't know because I'm not the person who puts it up on the website, but I will definitely make it available for anybody. So again, Cyena.com, just click on my name. It has if you're a LinkedIn person, I'll have my LinkedIn. If you just want to straight email me, you can email me a request and I'll try to get that into you as much as possible. All right, I think I got some people from Columbus. It's my hometown. I went to Ohio State, so I'm going to give everybody an OH who's still on here from Ohio. And my email again is david.grimes@cyena.com. So DAVID period Grimes, GRIMES, at Cyena.com. And Cyena's are on the screen there, CYANA.com. So david.grimes@Cyena.com. If you forget, just go to Cyena. You'll see that same picture of me up on the website that has, just go to the About page and you can view my LinkedIn profile. They have a link to my LinkedIn profile, so you can send me a message through LinkedIn, or you can actually click the little email letter button, envelope button, and send me an email through your email program if you wish. But if not, just you can jot down david.grimes@Cyena.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, or if you have, if you need anything. So again, just go to Cyena.com and go to About. About will have the information for me. If you're interested in the COVID-19 Best Practices webinar, there is a link on the accsc.org website. So that's going to be by, I think, Chris Lambert, the Associate Executive Director of ACCSC, and Dr. Michael McComas, the Executive Director, is going to share some information tomorrow. And that's on the accsc.org website. Things like technical guidance, I know, practical advice, how to implement distance education and distance education tips from the membership, like what member schools are saying. So there are some member schools that have shared their experiences, kind of like what I was doing today, but you get a nice Reader's Digest version of it tomorrow. And there's going to be some great information. I was talking with Christopher Lambert, and he had some really neat, interesting topics that I think I'm gonna try to jump on tomorrow too, and just get some good information from him and the team and all the membership schools, because I know there's a lot of great information out there. But that's all that's on the accsc.org website. I think on the main page, and let me just see if I can bring it up if you're still on here poking around. You'll get the Encore presentation here. And let me switch my screen here to my other view. So give me 1 second. I'll bring up the website and hopefully I can show it. So let me just pause my showing for a second, mainly because of my messy desktop. All right. So let me go to the ACCSC website. I'm going to show my desktop. All right, so this is the ACCSC website, accsc.org, if you haven't been there again. And then if you scroll down right on the front link here, and let me just zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. So they have the COVID-19 resources right here on the main page. And then you can access the webinar and register if you want to join that webinar. Anybody can join, but it's going to have these topics. So if these topics are of interest to you, definitely join that webinar. You could register today. And let me go back a little bit here. That's at accsc.org. Or I'm sure if you type in ACCSC or Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges into Google, you'll get to this page right here. Hey, that's me. Hi. I didn't know that was there. All right, and then you can click on this COVID-19 resources. Which is kind of like, if you just, for me, I just scroll down just a little bit down into this main white and gray area here. COVID-19 resources, read more. So there's a lot of great information here. The webinar at the very top, and then by date, they release some guidance information. So you can grab some of these documents and read some of these PDFs that ACCSC has put together related to the ACCS items that are related to COVID-19. So again, a lot of great information here. If you have some time, definitely jump into it. You'll see it from basically March 5th, 11th, 12th, 19th, and then the 27th right here for the best practices webinar. So that's for COVID-19. I had a question too about the webinar. If you kind of go to the accsc.org website and you click on events, they should have webinars right here. Now, right now, you'll see these webinars. There's that picture of me again. Hard look at soft skills is right here. Eventually, it's going to update, and it's going to look like something like, let me scroll down a little bit. You'll scroll down right here. You'll see these hard look at soft skills. This is from last year in 2019. And so you'll see the webinar recording, the presentation, assignancy, and certificate. So those are the 4 items that will be available for everybody. So you click on it, and then you can view. So you can see those recordings as a video. You can download my PowerPoint presentations as PDF files. And again, if you scroll down, you see a topic that you like, whether it's building teamwork, we had promoting student success, and even back in 2018, a lot of these are going to be from my recordings. So again, if you see something you like, let me know, and I'll try to help you out in any of these topics. But diverse group of learners, looking at assessments. So a lot of great material that ACCSC brings up here and shares on the website. That way you can view this at your own time and pick the topics that you think are going to be most important to you and to your school. Definitely jump on that. That's under events and then webinars. So accsc.org, go to events, and go to webinars. You can see all the great stuff on the webinars right here. And again, if you want to look at the COVID-19, that's going to be on the main site here. And so scroll down a little bit, COVID-19 resources, read more. There's a lot of great stuff coming in. If you're gonna, I'm gonna pretend to register, but you can register for the GoToWebinar just like you did for this one right here. Here's the information for it. So technical guidance and practical advice. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And you got best practices for implementing distance education tips from the ACCSC membership, what schools are saying, and even Q&A from the membership. What are your questions? So that's going to be great too. So very interesting one that your school leadership or anybody can attend to get some information and some guidance on everything related to distance education. First name, last name, email, and register, and you should get an email invite with a calendar invitation. Then you can add it to your Google Calendar, your Apple Calendar, or whatever calendar you might use, and add that in there. All right, with that, it's 4:30, so I'll have to get the boot here in a second. So again, if you want to go to, and let me just go to the website. Someone said they couldn't find me on the website, so let me make sure it's up there. So if you go to SciENA.com, up on the very top here, there's About. If you go to About, another picture of me right here, you have my email that you can click on. Let me go here. Don't hit that button, David. You go to this email here. I'll send me an email. That's my david.grimes@sciena.com. or you can click on my LinkedIn profile and send me a message through LinkedIn if you wish. So that's for me. And again, if you have any other questions, I guess for any of my awesome team members here, feel free to contact somebody if you do have a compliance question or anything else. But I'm definitely on here for academics. Click my email or my LinkedIn, and that was at Ciena.com, and then click on About at the very top here. And I'll be more than happy to reach out and help you out or supply an attachment if you were able to grab it, again, in that handout section. All right, so 4:31, I'll get the boot here in a second. So again, if you're still on here, thank you for staying on to the whole time. Gold stars for everybody. I wish I had digital gold stars I could put onto the attendee list here. But I want to thank you again. Definitely check out the accsc.org website for upcoming webinars. I'll be doing a couple here in the next upcoming week or two. And then there's that really nice one for COVID-19 best practices tomorrow with Dr. Michael McComas and with Christopher Lambert from ACCSC. And that's going to be at 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's Friday, March 27th, 11:30 to 1 tomorrow. So with that, thank you so much. I so much appreciate it. I want to thank you for your time and staying with me for the hour and a half that you've joined the webinar. And hopefully, again, you picked up a thing or two. That would be awesome. I would love to hear that something worked out for you, or if you migrated online, how discussions were going. Nothing is better than student success and teacher success in my book. So thank you very much, and I appreciate everything that you do.